Alexey understood that this restless day had begun, but he had prepared himself. Fate had been sending him signs, but he had ignored them. This day became the culmination of a series of misunderstandings with his wife, Anna. Their acquaintance began after Alexey's demobilization. Having served his term and returned to his hometown, he visited his old sports club. He was persuaded to participate in regional competitions, and after winning first place in his weight category, Alexey realized he was no longer cut out for professional sports, perhaps only for self-defense. Despite encouragement to continue, he left the sport behind. Alexey lived with his parents in a spacious house, with a small plot of land. His meeting with Anna occurred in a cafe. She worked as a secretary for a private company's manager. Alexey, holding an engineering technologist diploma, went to apply for a job but arrived during the lunch break. Deciding to wait, he stopped by a nearby cafe. Where he saw Anna. As fate would have it, they ended up at the same table and struck up a conversation. Anna was an attractive woman with a pleasant, soft voice. The job interview went well, especially since it was conducted by the company's founder, a friend of Alexey's sports coach, as the director was on vacation. They quickly found common ground, and Alexey was hired. Before leaving, the founder asked Alexey to keep his connections discreet to avoid envy and intrigue in the office, inevitable but often unpleasant in a workplace. Leaving the office, Alexey stopped by Human Resources and handed Anna his signed application. Although personnel files were usually created only for state employees, this commercial organization followed the founder's initiative to keep records for specific employees. This helped the team learn about newcomers not burdened by family ties. Noticing the absence of a wedding ring on Anna's finger, Alexey invited her to an evening outing. That was how their dates began. 6 months later, they were living together in Anna's apartment near their workplace. Another month passed before Alexey proposed, and Anna agreed. Alexey's parents took the news calmly. His father only remarked that it was his life, but they were always ready to help. Founder decided to hold a general meeting. Anna organized the event, renting a hall large enough to accommodate all the employees. At the meeting, the general director gave a report before the founder and the staff. Afterward, a buffet was planned in a cafe located in the basement of the same building. Lately, Alexey had noticed a change in Anna's behavior. She had grown distant and started staying late at work. This puzzled Alexey, as he worked at the same company and knew there was no real reason for such delays. 11 days later, he realized that Anna wasn't the only one working late. The new deputy director of production, Arkady Davidovich, was also staying behind. Piecing things together, Alexey waited for the right moment to confirm his suspicions. The hall buzzed with loud toasts for the team and the director, filling the atmosphere with cheer. Alexey wanted to invite Anna to dance, but Arkady beat him to it, spinning her into his arms with a smile. Alexey couldn't contain his irritation, which was hard to hide as it steadily grew, trying to feign obliviousness to Alexey's piercing gaze. A palpable atmosphere of misunderstanding formed between them. Anna turned back to her dance partner, leaving Alexey alone with his swirling thoughts. Stepped outside, hailed a taxi, and gave his address. His mind raced, revisiting memories of Anna's apartment, a space now heavy with unspoken conflicts. Meanwhile, his own one-bedroom apartment felt empty, like a hollow symbol of the domestic comfort he had lost after parting ways with his ex-wife. Avoiding Arkady at work would soon become impossible. Yet Alexey knew that someone would have to confront the growing tension. As soon as Alexey entered his apartment, the phone rang. Was Anna. His response was curt, confirming that he was home, and the call ended quickly. He began packing his belongings, paying special attention to important documents, preparing himself for any possible scenario. Later that evening, Anna arrived at the apartment, visibly intoxicated. Her lack of composure was glaring. a sharp contrast to the poised demeanor she usually maintained. She mentioned how the event had not met her expectations, claiming that among the guests were only well-mannered people from whom Alexey could learn something. Feeling the tension mount, Alexey retorted, questioning whether he should have flirted with other women as well. Anna in turn reminded him that she had only danced with Arkady, casting doubt on Alexey's confidence in her faithfulness. The faithfulness argument escalated when Alexey brought up the rumors circulating at work about her leaving the office late at night with Arkady, rather than waiting for her husband. Frustrated and tipsy, Anna declared she was tired of explaining herself. In her drunken state, she hinted at reconsidering their marriage, alluding to the idea that perhaps she wasn't ready to settle down completely. Her words revealed a deep chasm between them, and Alexey realized it was time to reevaluate. There was time to reevaluate relationship, this time without holding on to hope for reconciliation. Anna wanted to argue further but stopped when Alexey mentioned divorce. The words sobered her up. Divorce was not what she wanted. While she enjoyed Arkady's company, she understood that a close relationship between a married woman and a married man could never remain platonic. Such friendships could easily cross boundaries. Moreover, Arkady didn't interest her romantically. She simply found his conversations engaging, but Alexey's departure from the event would not go unnoticed, and Anna knew it would inevitably spark gossip. During a break in the dancing, she had tried calling Alexey, but she began the conversation poorly, prompting him to hang up. Her subsequent calls went unanswered. Now, she regretted lashing out at him when he got home, but anger clouded her judgment. After Alexey left the event, she had neither danced nor spoken with Arkady again. Tomorrow was Saturday. Alexey had mentioned he'd be at work until midday, after which he would return home. Anna resolved that they would have a calm conversation then. She also decided it was time to cut ties with Arkady entirely. Walking into the bedroom, Anna saw that Alexey had removed all of his belongings. She considered going to him but decided against it, thinking it best to wait until morning. Reconciliation was essential. Anna understood that their marriage was already fragile, and office rumors could shatter it completely. The next morning, Alexey woke up early after breakfast. Alexey left for work. His plans for the day included overseeing the repair of a press, a critical piece of equipment that needed to be operational by Monday. To avoid halting the production process, Alexey had warned Arkady about the consequences of overworking the press without proper maintenance. Despite this, Arkady ignored the advice, and now the inevitable had happened. The machine was on the verge of breaking down. Alexey had informed the director of the potential issue, but the warnings had not been taken seriously. By Friday, signs of malfunction were already apparent. Alexey was in a different frame of mind that morning. After breakfast, he loaded part of his belongings into his car and took them to his new residence. Then, he headed to work. To his surprise, the general director was present, inspecting the failed press. The machine had finally broken down completely. Without hesitation, Alexey was blamed for the failure. As the argument escalated, Alexey walked into the director's office and, without waiting for a response, placed his resignation letter on the desk. The director read the document and quickly understood that Alexey's decision to resign wasn't merely about the broken press. He was well aware of the events that had transpired at the company event, but at this point, it no longer mattered. The director tried to reason with Alexey, reminding him of the internal memo regarding the press repair and assuring him that it would be fixed by the end of the day. However, he also warned Alexey that he was risking a good job, as he would not be rehired once he left. Despite this, the director signed the resignation letter and informed Alexey that he should submit it to HR on Monday. His employment record would be handed to Anna, and his final payment would be processed by the accounting department. Before Alexey left, the director asked how long the press repairs would take. Alexey estimated that it would take approximately 2 weeks, but added that he would still monitor the progress. The chief engineer assured him that the press would be up and running by Monday. Alexey returned to his apartment and assessed what he needed to make it livable. He tidied up, organized the space, and soon the apartment was ready for a comfortable stay. He went to the store, bought groceries and drinks, and then left everything in the apartment before heading to a beer bar he used to frequent. Alexey stayed there until 10 p.m., slowly nursing his drinks, and then leisurely made his way home. Anna, meanwhile, was at home, anxiously waiting for Alexey. She had set the table and placed a bottle of wine for dinner, expecting him to return much earlier. However, as the hours passed, she stopped calling, knowing he wouldn't answer. When he wouldn't answer, she finally saw him walking toward the house. She felt a mixture of relief and frustration. When Alexey entered, Anna asked if they could talk. He replied that they could, but not tonight. He wasn't ready, would be ready, perhaps never, and ended the conversation by saying he wanted to sleep. Anna, hurt by his coldness, asked where he had been. Alexey, visibly irritated, told her it was none of her business and reminded her that while she was still legally his wife, she no longer held that role emotionally. Her indignation was clear as she snapped back, accusing him of being judgmental and dismissive. She suggested discussing everything tomorrow, but Alexey reiterated that his decision to leave her home remained unchanged. The next morning, fearing that Alexey might leave again, Anna got up early and began preparing breakfast in the kitchen. She peeked out the window and saw that his car wasn't parked nearby, reasoned that he had returned late the previous evening, possibly after working on the press, as his car was likely still at the company's lot. Alexey soon emerged from his room in his casual clothes. Anna invited him to the kitchen, immediately asked if he had overindulged the night before. He calmly replied that he had just decided to sleep in, and noticing her mention of the car, informed her that he would bring it back later. Anna attempted to reassure him, saying that her relationship with Arkady was purely professional. However, Alexey dismissed her explanation, stating that it didn't matter anymore. He excused himself to freshen up in the bathroom, where he took his time washing up and gathering his thoughts. Returning to his room, he began preparing to leave for the day. Anna, determined to keep the conversation going, managed to ask him about breakfast before he left. To Anna's offer of breakfast, Alexey responded with a well-known saying about meals. That breakfast should be eaten alone, lunch shared with a friend, and dinner left entirely aside. He added that dinner didn't suit him and left the apartment. Alexey took a minibus to the company where he was still officially listed as an employee, though he no longer considered himself one. He retrieved his car from the lot, stopped at a cafe for lunch on the way back, and then returned to his apartment. Settling in, he opened his laptop and began browsing job listings for hydraulic engineers. His qualifications, however, were broader, as he was an engineer with experience in research and project organizations. The main requirement was an engineering degree, and he identified several companies needing specialists with his skills, all conveniently located near his new residence. Alexey felt that the split with Anna was inevitable, especially since he already had a signed resignation letter in hand. He briefly informed her that he would be delayed the next day. Morning, their relationship had grown completely cold. Anna said nothing in response. She simply didn't know what to say. On Monday morning, Anna woke early, got ready, and rushed out to catch the minibus. After she left, Alexey made calls to several companies and secured interview appointments. Taking his time, he started his car, drove to a 24-hour cafe for breakfast, and then went to human resources at his former workplace, handing Anna the resignation letter signed by the director. Alexey asked for his employment record. Anna exclaimed that he must be out of his mind to quit his job. Hours to collect his employment record. As Alexey left her office, he ran into the chief engineer. The engineer questioned Alexey about the ongoing repairs, noting the difficulties they faced. Alexey replied that the repairs likely couldn't be completed in less than 2 weeks. He added that Arkady was to thank for the delay, as his orders to forgo maintenance in pursuit of profits had caused the press to break down. Alexey concluded by suggesting the engineer review his detailed memo, which outlined the situation clearly. Alexey then headed to an interview at a reputable company for the position of an engineer. The office was bustling, with employees engaged in various tasks. A secretary escorted him to the director's office, where they had a lengthy conversation. By the end of the discussion, the director revealed that he had contacted Alexey's previous employer and received unfavorable feedback. The director asked Alexey how he would explain this. Alexey calmly recounted the situation at his former job. A critical piece of equipment had broken down, halting the entire production process. The cause of the failure was the refusal to perform preventive maintenance, a decision made by the production department despite his warnings. He had even submitted a memo to the general director outlining the potential consequences. But his concerns were ignored in favor of maximizing bonuses. Alexey explained that the repairs would take at least 2 weeks under favorable circumstances. Not the entire unit might need replacing, which would take a minimum of a couple of months. He admitted he couldn't definitively determine the extent of the damage without further inspection. The director, intrigued, asked about the brand of the equipment. Alexey identified it as a complex, high-powered automated machine. The director acknowledged its high cost, impressed by Alexey's detailed knowledge, and continued to evaluate him as a candidate. Alexey was offered the job. He left the director's office. He noticed several employees aimlessly wandering the hallways. Curious, he asked the director what was going on, but the director brushed it off, promising to address the matter. Later, Alexey collected his employment record from his previous workplace without saying a word to Anna. In the parking lot, he ran into Kira, a friend who asked for a ride home due to a plumbing issue with her car. Relationship. Mentioning that everyone in the office was gossiping about Anna's behavior at the company event. Kira shared that Anna had told her they had argued, but was confident Alexey loved her and would forgive her. Kira added that Anna seemed to have stopped flirting with Arkady, but Alexey expressed his doubts. Kira revealed that Arkady had recently purchased theater tickets and invited Anna. Alexey responded curtly that he planned to visit his parents that day. Kira admitted she had her own interest in Anna's situation because Anna had once betrayed her, leading to Kira's divorce. Alexey dropped Kira off at her house, helped her resolve the plumbing issue by visiting the management company, and then returned home. That evening, Anna learned that Alexey had officially resigned. She mentioned that the director had asked him to return, but Alexey refused, suggesting instead that they open a tender for a new piece of equipment to replace the broken press. He informed Anna about his new job and added that his parents would be visiting the city on Friday. Anna responded that she had already made plans to go to the theater with Kira. When Alexey reminded her she had promised to meet his parents, she chose not to cancel her outing. On Friday, Alexey met his parents at the train station and saw them off. Returning home, he packed the rest of his belongings, changed, and left the apartment. While he was moving out, Anna enjoyed the play with Arkady. After the performance, Arkady walked her home and they shared a kiss. However, as Arkady made his way to a nearby bus stop, he was attacked and severely beaten. Unaware of the incident's gravity, Alexey was surprised by the outcome. Anna returned home only to receive a call from Arkady's wife, who informed her about Arkady's hospitalization and mentioned photos of Anna and Arkady at the theater. Shaken, Anna went to bed. The next morning, Anna woke up early to the sound of her alarm and recalled the conversation with Arkady's wife. On Monday, she took a large amount of cash with her, just in case, and called Alexey. He answered coldly, acknowledging that he knew about Arkady's beating but dismissing it as Arkady's own fault. Alexey told her she had chosen her path and that she never cared about his desires, pointing out that this was her first time going to the theater. With another man, no less. He added that he no longer wanted to speak to her and blocked her number. Kira then called Alexey to inform him that Arkady's wife had assaulted Anna at the office, landing her in the hospital. Kira also mentioned that the police were looking for Alexey. Meanwhile, Alexey focused on his new job later. Victor, a friend, invited Alexey to his birthday party. Alexey decided to buy gifts for both Victor and his sister, Viktoria. Kira informed Alexey that the general director was considering firing both Arkady and Anna, which added complexity to the situation. Alexey felt compelled to act cautiously. On Friday, he stopped by the market to buy flowers for Viktoria. Around 2 p.m., Kira called saying she was visiting her parents out of town and that Anna was still trying to contact Alexey. However, Anna was blocked and stuck in the hospital with her injuries. Kira suggested that Anna visit Arkady, who had regained consciousness and started eating again. She also urged Alexey to call Anna and calm her down, but he refused, stating that Anna had destroyed their marriage and he wanted nothing to do with her. Despite Kira's insistence that Anna was remorseful and willing to make amends, Alexey remained firm. Anna, however, held on to the hope of salvaging their relationship. Alexey, on the other hand, believed Anna had changed, becoming cunning, and blamed himself for letting it happen. Kira hinted at a secret involving their former manager, who had once chosen a different career path after speaking with Alexey. This prompted Alexey to reconsider and call Anna. She quickly answered, saying Kira had urged him to visit her at the hospital. Alexey asked for her department and, learning she was in surgery and aware of Arkady's wife's visit, made his own conclusions. He assured Anna he had no involvement in Arkady's attack. When she asked if he would visit her, Alexey declined, citing other plans and reiterating that there was no place for her in his life. He reminded her that he had already made his position clear. Later, Alexey arrived at Victor's home with the flowers and gifts. Victor, surprised, welcomed him in, where the party was in full swing. Among the guests were Victor's family and Viktoria. Alexey congratulated the siblings, presenting them with their gifts, which greatly impressed Viktoria. As the evening unfolded, Alexey learned more about Viktoria's life, her dedication to her career as a local doctor, her past failed engagement due to infidelity, and her decision to live alone. Alexey found himself charmed by her, but cautious from his experience with Anna, he chose to take things slowly. As the evening ended, Alexey invited Victor, his wife, and Viktoria to a cafe the following Friday. Although Victor suggested hosting at his place, Viktoria insisted on the cafe. Alexey was hired. As he exited the director's office, he noticed several employees wandering aimlessly in the hallways. He asked the director about it, and the director replied that he would handle the situation. Later, Alexey collected his employment record from his previous workplace without saying a word to Anna. In the parking lot, he met Kira, a friend, who asked for a ride home due to a plumbing issue in her car. During the drive, Kira started a conversation about Alexey and Anna's relationship. She mentioned that everyone at the office was discussing Anna's behavior at the company event. Kira said Anna had told her about their fight, but believed that Alexey still loved her and would forgive her. She also added that Anna seemed to have stopped flirting with Arkady. However, Alexey doubted this. Kira shared that Arkady had recently bought tickets to a play and invited Anna. Alexey said he planned to visit his parents on that day. Kira explained her interest in the situation, revealing that Anna had once betrayed her, leading to Kira's divorce. Alexey dropped Kira off at her house, helped her resolve her plumbing issue by visiting the management company, and then went home. That evening, Anna learned that Alexey had officially resigned. She mentioned that the director had asked him to come back, but Alexey refused, instead suggesting a tender process to purchase a new press. He informed her about his new job and that his parents would be in town on Friday. Anna told him she had already planned to go to the theater with Kira. Alexey reminded her of her promise to meet his parents, but Anna chose not to cancel her outing. On Friday, Alexey met his parents at the train station, escorted them to their train, and returned home. He packed the rest of his belongings, changed clothes, and left the apartment. Meanwhile, Anna enjoyed the play with Arkady. After the performance, Arkady walked her home, and they shared a kiss. A nearby bus stop, he was severely beaten. Alexey hadn't anticipated such serious consequences. The theater. Shaken, Anna went to bed. The next morning, Anna awoke early to her alarm and recalled her conversation with Arkady's wife. On Monday, she took a large sum of money with her, just in case, and called Alexey. He coldly answered, saying he knew about Arkady's beating but considered it Arkady's own fault. Alexey added that Anna had chosen her path and had never considered his feelings, pointing out that it was her first time going to the theater with another man. He told her he no longer wanted to speak to her, and no longer wanted to speak to her. Blocked her number. Kira later called Alexey to tell him that Arkady's wife had assaulted Anna at the office, and Anna was now in the hospital. She also mentioned that the police were looking for Alexey. Meanwhile, Alexey focused on his new job. Viktor, a friend, invited Alexey to his birthday party, prompting Alexey to buy gifts for both Viktor and his sister. Viktoria. Kira informed Alexey that the general director was planning to fire both Arkady and Anna. The situation was becoming increasingly complex. On Friday, Alexey went to the market to buy flowers for Viktoria. Around 2 p.m., Kira called to say she was visiting her parents out of town, and noted that Anna was still trying to contact Alexey, though he had blocked her number. Anna was in the hospital with injuries but refused to file a complaint. Kira suggested that Anna visit Arkady, who had regained consciousness and begun eating again. She also urged Alexey to call Anna and calm her down, but he refused, stating that Anna had destroyed their marriage. Despite Kira's insistence that Anna was remorseful and ready to make amends, Alexey remained firm. Anna believed their relationship could be restored, but Alexey thought otherwise. He felt Anna had changed, becoming manipulative, and blamed himself for it. Kira mentioned a secret involving a manager who had once chosen a different career path after talking to Alexey. This prompted Alexey to reconsider and call Anna. Anna quickly answered, saying Kira had urged him to visit her at the hospital. Alexey asked where she was, and learned she was in the surgery department. Hearing about Arkady's wife's involvement, Alexey made his own conclusions. He assured Anna he had nothing to do with Arkady's assault. When she asked if he would visit her, Alexey refused, citing other plans and reiterating that she no longer had a place in his life. Later, Alexey arrived at Viktor's home with flowers and gifts. Viktor was surprised and welcomed him inside, where the celebration was underway. Among the guests were Viktor's family and Viktoria. Alexey congratulated them and handed over the gifts, which delighted Viktoria. During the evening, Alexey learned more about Viktoria. Her career as a local doctor, her failed engagement due to infidelity, and her decision to live alone. Alexey found himself charmed by her, but chose to proceed cautiously, mindful of his past experience with Anna. Of the evening, Alexey invited Viktor, his wife, and Viktoria to a cafe the following Friday. Although Viktor suggested hosting at his place, Viktoria insisted on the cafe. On Sunday morning, Alexey, having eaten early breakfast, brought a few things to Anna. She thanked him, but remarked that it wasn't necessary to bring anything. She wanted to share her thoughts with him. From her perspective, it seemed Alexey had already exacted enough revenge on her and Arkady, and she didn't understand why he was now punishing their workplace. Meanwhile, Kira confided in Anna that the company's founders were very dissatisfied with the general director and were questioning his competence. She added that the director's lack of foresight had led to his downfall, including his decision to procure the theater tickets for Anna and Arkady. There were even rumors that the police had noticed a prominent mark on Arkady's lips left by Anna's kiss. Alexey suspected this, but Anna denied it. Alexey accused her of lying when she claimed to have gone to the theater with a friend. He reminded her that he was well aware of her communication with Arkady at work, a fact that everyone around them seemed to know, much to Alexey's frustration. Anna declared that she was ready to quit her job if Alexey came back, but he rejected her offer. In truth, it seemed Anna had no real intention of leaving her job, and there was no compelling reason for her to do so. Alexey no longer trusted Anna and doubted he ever would again. As the work week flew by, Alexey immersed himself in his new job, studying the mechanisms he worked with. He compiled a list of required parts and identified potential issues. By Friday, when his shift ended, Alexey was already waiting at a cafe for Victor's wife, and Viktoria. However, Victor's wife couldn't make it as she was occupied with their children, despite them being old enough to not need constant supervision. Eventually, Viktoria arrived with a slight delay. Soon after, Victor called to apologize, explaining that work had kept him out of town, though he promised to join them if possible. Viktoria, taking a seat at the table, remarked that she hadn't been to restaurants or cafes in a long time but often attended theaters. She mentioned an upcoming premiere and suggested they go together. Tickets wouldn't be an issue, as she had connections with the administrator, a colleague she had helped with a complex work issue. The two placed their order, beginning with drinks and light appetizers as they waited for their main course. Responsibilities. She emphasized the need for quick decision-making, as there was little room for error and often a lack of sufficient information. Despite this, she found the job less engaging than expected and redirected the conversation, asking Alexey about his work. Hesitant, Alexey doubted whether she'd find technical details about mechanisms interesting, but Viktoria confidently assured him that his explanations were always captivating. As they continued talking, Alexey occasionally glanced at the dancing couples nearby. Evening passed peacefully. Around 9 p.m., Victor called again, saying his wife was preparing dinner and the children were still awake. Having barely seen them all week, Victor wanted to spend time with his family. Meanwhile, Alexey and Viktoria continued to enjoy the evening, sharing drinks and eventually joining the dance floor themselves. The following week, Alexey and Viktoria attended the theater together. After the play, Alexey invited her to another cafe, and they made plans for yet another outing the next week. On Monday, Anna was discharged from the hospital. She returned home, determined to go back to work on Tuesday. Once again, she began calling Alexey, but he ignored her attempts to reach him. On Tuesday, Anna returned to the office where she was warmly greeted by Kira. Kira excitedly informed her about the wave of resignations happening at work, and added that she herself planned to leave soon. Kira shared that she had reconciled with her husband and intended to move to a bigger city with better job prospects. Regarding the department head, Kira noted that he remained silent as he handed over his duties to a new manager. However, the new manager wasn't interested in accepting the role and was also planning to resign. The workplace situation was chaotic, made even more difficult by the impending dismissal of Arkady. According to Kira, Arkady would be fired as soon as his medical leave ended. Kira admitted she didn't know what lay ahead for herself, as no one had informed her of her future within the company. Alexey had visited her recently and told her he no longer believed in Anna's hopes of rekindling their relationship. Yet, Kira suspected that Anna still clung to some faint hope. Despite all evidence pointing otherwise, she couldn't quite understand why she had gone to the theater with Arkady, knowing it would be impossible to stay unnoticed. Kira admitted that the situation was challenging, but she advised Anna to face her circumstances head-on while avoiding the reception area where the new employee worked. For Kira, this transition was just another uncertain step in her life, a leap into change and the unknown. Another week flew by, and Alexey went to the opera with Viktoria. He was utterly captivated by the performance, the music, and above all, Viktoria's beauty. With a tinge of sadness, Alexey realized that he had never truly loved Anna, nor had she loved him. Their relationship had been little more than a habit. Word of Alexey's theater visit reached Anna. Acquaintances told her they had seen him at the premiere of Juno and Avos, sitting in the front rows with a stunning woman during intermission. The two were engrossed in lively conversation. After the performance, Alexey and the woman left together, heading in the same direction. Despite Anna's efforts, she couldn't find out who the woman was. Either no one recognized her or no one wanted to tell Anna. Outside, the weather was bitterly cold, but Alexey had to repair broken equipment in a drafty basement. Despite the harsh conditions, he managed to fix the issue. However, the exposure left him with a severe cold. The following morning, he barely had the energy to dress. After some effort, he called for a doctor to visit him at home. Though everyone assumed it was a minor illness, Alexey was struggling. He unlocked the door, collapsed onto the couch, and waited. By midday, the doctor arrived. It was Viktoria. She entered, washed her hands, and gently woke Alexey. He opened his eyes, smiled, and saw her standing there, realizing she had come in response to his call. As she was his local physician, after examining him, Viktoria noted that Alexey had caught a bad cold. She prescribed medications, including injections, and told him she would administer them herself. She mentioned she had 2 more house calls to make and advised him to rest in advised. The meantime, Alexey asked where his spare keys were, and Viktoria pointed to the key rack, reassuring him she wasn't going anywhere. He could retrieve them later. Viktoria then left, promising to return. Alexey didn't notice her return. His fever left him weak and unaware. When he woke up, Viktoria was already preparing an injection. She gave him the shot and handed him pills, instructing him to take them. She asked how long it had been since they had seen each other. Alexey, with a faint smile, invited Viktoria to have dinner with him. Viktoria, however, teased him, noting that he hadn't even managed to take off his outerwear yet. Alexey sheepishly admitted that he had fallen asleep again. He suggested she move to the couch while he made his way to the bedroom. After some effort, he undressed and settled under the blanket. Viktoria followed him into the room with a hot cup of tea with honey and lemon. She reminded him to drink it while it was still warm. Laughing, Alexey asked why she needed the couch cleared. Viktoria explained that she planned to sleep there, so she could monitor his condition and administer another round of injections before bedtime. She promised they'd share a meal afterward. About 40 minutes later, Alexey, half asleep, heard Viktoria setting up a small table near his bed. She gently called his name, and he struggled to sit up. To his surprise, she had prepared a feast. When he marveled at how much she had done in so little time, Viktoria casually replied that it was just reheated food, nothing special. Viktoria then mentioned that Anna had been told about Alexey's visit to the theater. According to Viktoria, Anna's friends had informed her that Alexey had attended the premiere with a beautiful woman, leaving Anna feeling increasingly uneasy about his new life. Alexey stayed firm in his decision to distance himself from Anna, while Kira suggested he try to comfort her. Alexey explained that he had resigned from his job, moved out of their shared home, and was already preparing divorce papers. Understood her. Alone, Alexey began preparing the documents necessary for their divorce. He believed that if there was no joy in their relationship, parting would bring no sorrow. However, he admitted that Anna might lose her composure over the situation. Still, Alexey didn't understand what she had expected. From his perspective, he had been little more than a source of income for her, and she had enjoyed his obliviousness to her actions. Once, he started noticing things. Everything had changed. Meanwhile, Kira mentioned that Anna had blamed Alexey for all their problems. Alexey reminded Kira of Anna's decision to attend the theater with Arkady. That, he said, was her mistake. He had been against her going, even offering to accompany her, but his offer hadn't even been considered. The breakdown in their relationship was evident, and the situation continued to worsen. At the same time, Alexey's relationship with Viktoria deepened. One evening, after she prepared a beautiful dinner, complete with a bottle of wine, Alexey thanked her, admitting he felt much better thanks to her care. However, he asked her to keep his sick leave open for one more day, as he wanted a bit more time to recover. That night, Viktoria stayed with Alexey for the first time, sharing his bedroom. The next morning, Alexey asked Viktoria how they should move forward, whether they should move into her apartment or stay at his. Why he was making such a decision now? Smiling, Alexey handed her a ring and proposed. Surprised, Viktoria asked how this was possible, pointing out that he was still married. Alexey explained that he planned to file for divorce that day, and that was why he needed one more day off. Viktoria accepted his proposal and told him he could return later in the afternoon to have his sick leave extended. Alexey spent the morning completing the divorce paperwork, paying all the necessary fees and submitting the documents on time. After lunch, he went to the clinic to see Viktoria. He found her in her office, speaking with another doctor who appeared to be explaining something. When Alexey entered, Viktoria smiled and asked him to wait a moment. Once the conversation ended, she turned her full attention to him. Alexey informed Viktoria about an incident involving someone trying to harm him, noting that the situation in the area had become unsafe. He insisted on escorting her to and from work to ensure her safety. 3 months later, Alexey and Anna's divorce was finalized. Anna couldn't believe how her life had fallen apart, convinced that she hadn't done anything wrong. Her circle of friends dwindled further after Kira cut ties with her, stating that her husband didn't want her associating with Anna anymore. Within 6 months, Alexey and Viktoria got married. By that time, emotions had cooled, and they began building their life together at Alexey's apartment. They considered trading their 2 apartments for a larger 3-room unit, but decided to wait. Anna remained at her job, where the staff had almost entirely turned over. Over time, she met a new partner who had recently joined the company. However, he turned out to be extremely jealous, causing problems over the slightest issues. One evening, after Anna stayed late at work, he became violent, leaving her injured. She reported the incident to the authorities and filed a complaint. During the investigation, she broke up with him. Meanwhile, Arkady, having returned from medical leave, resigned from his job and left the city. His whereabouts remained unknown, though there were rumors of an incident in a nearby town. Allegedly, a man had been attacked at a cafe after showing interest in a woman. Witnesses claimed they hadn't seen anything, leaving Arkady's fate shrouded in mystery.